Welcome to the Forward Together podcast. I'm your host, Jamie. This is Rob. We had a great show for you today. Happy that you're tuning in. Rob, what's going on?
Man, it's good to be back. It's been a great week. Spring has sprung,
Spring has sprung. Not necessarily this morning when we're shooting. It's still pretty chilly. But, man, what a great week weather-wise. So, hey, in today's show, we're going to give you a word of the week. Kind of talk about our plans for March and a brief sports recap. So, Rob, kick it off for us.
All right. So, yesterday, I want to just kind of share with you a little bit from the word I shared yesterday with the church. And so, yesterday we talked about Paul's shipwreck on the island of Malta. And I talked about how when they had survived the shipwreck, landed on the island, and he had gathered a bundle of firewood to put on the fire, a snake came out of the fire, latched on his hand, and he shook the snake off into the fire, felt no harm, and was miraculously preserved by God, that he was not killed by the poison of the snake bite. So the title of my message was to shake it off. You know, there's so many things in the world and in life that tries to latch onto us. And the Bible just says that Paul shook the snake off into the fire. He kind of calmly did not allow that to really to affect him in a way, that he was miraculously preserved by God when the snake bite did not harm him. And so in life, we have storms. We have times where we feel like we've been shipwrecked because something has happened. We've gone through a storm, and maybe we feel marooned, and maybe we feel like we're in a difficult place. And so I just encouraged the church yesterday to kind of shake off those things, not allow things to attach to us. And, you know, one of the things we talked about yesterday that can attach to us is words.
Yep.
People's opinions about us, or people's thoughts or problems, or their burdens, things that people try to lay on you, or try to, those things just attach. And I just was encouraging people, just shake it off. Just don't carry these types of things. Shake them off. And we had prayer time with a few different folks after the message to just leave those things at the altar, give them to the Lord, and just shake it off. Just don't carry it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go off script a little bit. So one, loved the message, loved the word of the week yesterday, and it was a much more elegant way of some theories and thoughts about how I try to live my life, because I'm usually pretty happy guy. So shake it off was a much better way. So I have two key philosophies that have I think helped me in life, and your shake it off was kind of encapsulated those in kind of a different way. So two things: when storms come, like for example, for me, one of the bigger storms is like being laid off. So I would give myself 24 hours to, I joke about it and call it being human, to kind of mourn and stuff like that. And then this is where I would get to go into your message, like shake it off. But when you wake up that next day, life goes on. Yeah. Like you got to get up, put your big boy pants on, because life is going to move whether I choose to wallow in my situation. Mm-hmm. So you got to shake it off. I would give myself 24 hours to be human and then keep moving on. And then the other thing that I thought, one of my life things has always been so happy is, I really, outside of Stacy, because we're in a marriage, but we're still human, I don't have expectations of people to some degree. And what I mean by that is, I know that people are human, and they will, not on purpose most of the time, sometimes it is on purpose, but if you put your expectations in people, they're going to let you down. Like, you're going to have hurt feelings, or you're not going to understand why they do this, or you'll sit there. But, I always try to put my trust in God and not people. And then it just helps, because then you don't have an expectation that they're going to be perfect. Dumb things.
You won't be let down.
Exactly. Because, I think more when you're younger. As you get older, I don't think stuff like this, but this is just an example I come up with, is, maybe you want to be invited to something and you don't get invited. For a lot of people, man, they will let that sit in their soul and in their mind, and it'll sit in their head when, maybe God didn't need you there. Maybe it would have been a tripping point for you. Maybe, there's a reason you shouldn't have been there. So it's just little things like that I think that if you can shake it off, it just helps you have a better walk and just a better outlook in relationship with God and life.
Yeah. That's good. You've shared that before, and I think it's odd coming from you, because you are a very positive person. Yeah. You do try to see the best in situations, but when it comes to people, You've shared that with me before, and I think in some ways that makes us different. Although I think you have a healthy perspective, but I think for me, a lot of times I try to expect the best.
Yeah.
And you kind of don't come into it expecting the worst, but you kind of come into a situation. Well, people are people, and if they have something else they would rather do, that's what they're going to do. Or they disappoint you. They don't live up to the expectations that you kind of think that someone would do. Because I know you and I've had conversations before, and I'm like, man, can you believe that happened? Or can you believe so and so did this or did that or said that? And you're like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Nothing surprises. You've said that before. Nothing surprises you, and I'm surprised sometimes by the way people respond about things. I think I try to. You and I are both very positive and both very optimistic people, and I think I try to look and expect the absolute best out of people at all times, and that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, look, me and you we're close. We meet here at 3:45 in the morning, but we're gonna fail each other at points. I mean, you have to just realize that we're both human, and generally, like, I don't think you would ever try to hurt my feelings or vice versa. But we'll probably do something where you're like. And you're like, man, why did you do that? Well, there was no ill will. Like, it's, you have those kind of things. So, yeah, I mean, I think it just, I guess that's DNA, like how you look at life. So we both come to the same point. It's just, I think we kind of hit it from different angles. So when, I guess, you expect the best, when the best happens for me, I guess I'm overjoyed. So I'm like, hey, it's like the best things happen.
Yeah.
But I think we have the same root in that we both know that people, even the ones that you love, your family, friends, like, we're all going to make people upset at times.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I generally don't think very few times do I think the intent is there to upset people. And so it makes it easier for me to.
One of the messages I've preached a lot that I feel is one of Satan's master plans against people is that root of bitterness and unforgiveness that attaches onto people, and that's one of the things I would say, shake it off. And I've seen it in church. I've seen it as being a pastor. I've seen people that become offended because somebody, it could be the pastor, it could be anyone in the church, done something to offend them, and they just start gathering, and it just starts compiling offenses, and they wear it like a backpack, and it's just. This happened at this church, I'll put that in my pack. This happened here, I'll put that in my pack. And then they just go from church to church carrying their offenses on their back instead of shaking it off. Don't allow a snake, a venomous viper like on the island of Malta injects poison. The islanders expected Paul to die because of the poison that was injected into his body. But God miraculously preserved him. And words people say to us are like poison. Yep. These burdens, these offensive in our pack that we're carrying around to us from church to church or place to place, it's like poison. People talk about this phrase that became popular a few years ago called church hurt. And it's a real thing.
I'd never heard church hurt.
You hadn't?
No.
Yeah, it's a real thing. People get church hurt and they end up leaving the church and they end up going out. And it's a real thing. But I also think that we have a responsibility, like you said, to shake that off, to not carry those things, to not allow things that even Christians do to hurt, to wound us, to cause us to become disillusioned with God, because our faith is not in people, it is in the Lord. Yes. It is in God, who does not let us down, who does not forsake us. And so I just encourage our watchers today, we don't know what's coming this week and what we may have to face or what we may have to deal with, so let's just shake it off. Let's just not carry those things.
I agree. I think a lot of times, I'm not sure why this is. I like church. I mean, what you're talking about, I have seen growing up in church. I'd never heard the term church hurt, but a lot of times we're sometimes our own worst enemy towards each other. Instead of showing more grace and more love and more forgiveness, a lot of times church folks can, I don't know if it's because maybe it's about expectations because you're in there, but we're well, obviously you're the pastor. I'm on stage a little bit to open. I do carry responsibility for that, but I also feel that, there might be times, and I don't really have this around here, but maybe I got road rage. Like when I was in Houston, like you get upset, somebody cuts you off. Like I'm still human, even though, we're on a stage and stuff like that. So have some, shake it off, have some forgiveness, and think about, yourself, because none of us are perfect. So especially as I'm getting older, you think you have a realization that, you know what, man, life can be hard, and we got to have some grace and shake it off and just love people.
That's right. Well, so the year in 2025 is moving along quickly. We are already to episode 17 of the podcast. We're already to the month of March. It is the first Monday of March. And so, Jamie, what do we got going on this month?
So we got Winterfest for the church. We'll talk a little bit about that. We got you have softball season. I'm headed down to Atlanta with our friend Brad Hanks to do the Core Refuge 5K and do a little volunteer work down there. But I think coming up first, well, I guess softball season started, but we'll talk about Winterfest first.
Yeah, Winterfest is this coming weekend, and so if you're watching us before Thursday, I encourage you to say a prayer for our group, our youth pastor, Matt, and his wife, Ashley, and 3 other adult leaders are taking 16 students down to, it's in Pigeon Forge now at the LeConte Center, and it's a smaller venue that, it was at Thompson Bowling Arena on UT campus in Knoxville, and folks would stay in Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, and then around Knoxville. So it was always there up until, I think it started changing around when COVID hit. They had to move it outdoors, and then when they came back, it was a smaller, but now they sell out. So it's almost like the 20,000, 15 to 20,000 seat arena was too big, but now like 10,000 is not enough.
Right.
And so I feel like we kind of need to find a larger venue because they've been selling out, which is a good thing. It's a great problem to have. But it's exciting. It's my son's first Winterfest. Laney's third and Rob's first, and so I'm excited for him to get to go and a couple of his buddies. We've got 5 seventh graders, and it'll be that went to Kid Fest last year. 4 of them did, and it'll be their very first Winterfest. So that's cool for them.
That's incredible. Did you go to Winterfest?
Yeah, as a youth pastor. So we went to Winterfest from 08 to 11. 8, 9, 10. So I went to 4 Winterfest.
Okay.
I had planned 2012 Winterfest when we left Parrott. The group still went, but we didn't go and lead it because we had left transition from the church in February. So, yeah, I did 4 Winterfests. I think our K-Sound's first one was like us and 4 students, and then it kind of grew. And
so did you go as a kid though?
One time with Pulaski.
Yeah, I was going to say. So
did I tell you that?
No.
So my youth group didn't, but I went with your church.
Okay. Man, Winterfest is incredible. So I feel, I feel like an OG for Winterfest. I don't know when
there in the 80s.
I don't know when it started, but I can tell you that
it's in the 80s.
I remember going as a 7th grader. So I graduated in 92. You're talking like 85, 86.
So you were there when they were in Gatlinburg.
Yes. Well, I remember. I guess I can't remember where it was. We stayed. I can remember the hotel. So the first years I remember is we would go into Gatlinburg. You went through 2 red lights, made a left, and we stayed at I want to say it was called the Grand Hotel. And then we would walk down to it
was at the Gatlinburg Convention Center, the small.
Well, my
center.
original memories are it was in a hotel. I could be totally wrong about that, but because we're talking, we're talking a long time ago. My first memories are when it was at the Gatlinburg Convention Center. Okay. It's where I remember it being after a few years. But yeah, it's incredible. I don't know about where venues are, but I feel like it's great for a couple of reasons. So one, I don't think there's a better town, even though Gatlinburg's so much different than it was 20 years ago, because you can let kids, you can go there. I mean, they used to let us out. We could go walk because it's just Main Street. I mean, it's a great place. It's as safe as I think you can get in a place like that now. And then, yeah, size is always a hit or miss thing, right? Like it's too big. Then, so like going when it was like the perfect size. It was intimate enough where you felt like you were part of it, but it was obviously still enough to have a lot of people. And then it was life-changing weekends from a spiritual aspect. But I mean, I still have some of my best friends are from our youth group, and from a bonding experience for the kids, I don't think there's a better trip, like a church trip, than when they go to Winterfest. So
absolutely,
even sitting here at you're talking 30 plus years later, it's one of the coolest things I remember doing when I was a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. And there's kind of a biblical precedent because the nation of Israel, when they would go, they would take an extended time and go celebrate the feasts. And they would go away. They would travel and they would pick up and they would go. And so I feel like there's a biblical precedent for kind of like the retreat, kind of like the camp or the spiritual retreat, or just getting away from the normal routine to spend a time worshiping God. And then that's kind of what Winterfest is for. It's geared towards middle and high school students, but it is kind of that time for them. And I think it's great.
I also think too, and I don't know if you can remember this, but even growing up in church, there's a freedom to express yourself, a freedom to worship. I don't want to say more freely, because I think our kids here are amazing at worship and going to the altar and that kind of stuff. But I can remember as a kid, there was something about when you didn't feel like you had the church or your parents, and it was just your peers and like your youth group.
Yeah.
There's a freedom. I think there's things you can say or you can talk about when you're amongst your peers that you wouldn't want to talk about with your parents or other adults around, or that kind of stuff. Like when you have your peer group, I think because they're going through the same things.
Yeah.
And as in tune as a lot of us think we are, there are just things kids go through that they understand amongst themselves that you would never understand as like an adult. So I definitely think there's a lot of freedom in that, which creates that. It's kind of like what you're talking about. It allows them to go out and do that. And obviously Matt and his team do an amazing job of cultivating that as well.
Yeah, it's like the phrase, change of pace and change of place, change of pace.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of change of perspective.
Yep.
And that's good. Yeah. And Matt adds a whole other element to it, because our group gets a cabin. They extended a day because of feeling like we want to max out the distance we travel, the cost involved in getting a cabin.
Yep.
He takes and adds Thursday, and then they do their own service on Thursday, which I think is great. And some of our students says that's the best of the services they go to is the Thursday night service, where it's just our group in the cabin, and he leads worship, and they have their own time there with God. So be in prayer for them. That's exciting. That's coming up this weekend. But yes, it is March. It was great to be out last week for softball.
Great weather
transition, too. Yeah. So our AD at school made a great call to back up spring sports season a week, because we know what the weather was like the week before. Yes. Windy, cold. And so last week was great. This week it's going to be we'll have some warm days. We're going to have some cool windy days, but it was great being out on the field. So we're looking at, I've got 20 or 21 girls. There's still one or two that may join us this week. We're still kind of waiting, but
awesome.
Going to have a varsity team for the first time ever and a middle school team. So building the program kind of that way. We got a lot of younger players, a young team, but got a lot to work with. I was excited about what I saw last week. Got a lot to work on. So we practiced 5 out of 6 days last week, and we're going to practice 4 days this week. So going to hit it today at 3:30. But yeah, it's been fun. Just growing a little. So a week from tomorrow is our first game. We go to Roanoke. So.
Awesome. Yeah. So last thing I got, really the only thing I got going on in March is so in a few weeks, Brad Hanks, who comes and leads worship here for us at times, him and his wife Jessie. So with him going down to Atlanta to do the Core Refuge 5K. Really big event down there, help them fundraise, and then I think we're doing some volunteer work there on Friday. So we'll leave on Thursday, and then coming back on Sunday, and excited to see some. I know I have some friends down there that I probably hadn't seen in a while, so excited to see them go do some volunteer work, and we'll get done with the 5K. I've ran 0, I think, one time this year, just because it's been cold and I don't like to run. So I use that as an excuse, and now I got a 5K in 3 weeks, and we'll get through it. We ain't looking to set a personal best, but we'll get through. My saving grace, although I believe there's one big hill in this course, it's got to be flatter than running around here. Mm-hmm. So that might be the saving grace for me to do at least a decent time. So we'll see how that goes. But,
so you say volunteer work. So I know you'll run the race, but what else?
It's my first year going, but in talking to Brad, so we go down. Brad said we'll stay in like some dorm room type things. So I assume somewhere on like Bruce's campus. Again, I'll have a great report when we come back. But then like on Friday, Brad's like, of whatever Bruce has for us to do. He's like, we've painted. He said we've done stuff in like the yard work, like outside. So basically, whatever they need done, we'll help them out and do that on Friday. Saturday morning, we'll help with the race and run. and then Saturday afternoon probably just go kill some time, go find a nice place to eat, that kind of thing, and then Sunday we'll get up and drive back.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so super excited to be part of that. I've always wanted to be part of it, but we're living in Texas, and so he asked me, and I was like, I have the time, so excited to do it. That's really it for kind of what's going on in March. Got anything else? That's all I got.
That's about it.
Quick sports recap. It's been a busy week for me, so I haven't got to watch a lot. I know my Warriors are now 7-2 since the Jimmy Butler trade, so that seems to be going well. Excited. I don't pay attention to college basketball until the tournament. So
Say about the Warriors.
Oh, yeah,
they're in Charlotte tonight.
Are they?
You know that? Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
One of my softball players is having her birthday, and her birthday gift was to take a friend and go to Charlotte because she loves the Warriors. And I thought about you when I heard about this Saturday practice or Friday, whenever it was. And she's going to see the Warriors tonight in Charlotte.
I thought you were going to surprise me with tickets.
Oh, no.
When you brought that up, I was like, yeah.
Sorry, no. Just thought they are close by, though.
Yeah, no, hopefully. They lost to the Nets the other night, the 76ers without Joel Embiid. That was a bad loss. Jimmy Butler didn't play, so hopefully he plays tonight. But they should beat Charlotte. So excited about that. So.
All right, and let's see. Well, there was a race yesterday at COTA Circuit. It's called COTA Circuit of the Americas. It was in Austin, Texas. That's where the race was, and it was a road course. Not my favorite, but I watched it kind of the beginning and the end. Christopher Bell won again, back-to-back races now. So we've had 3 races and 2 winners. So we had Byron and then Bell back-to-back weeks. Kyle Busch was up front at the end. Chase Elliott actually, when they restarted with 14 to go, was outside of the top 20 and came all the way back and finished 4th. So I was pretty excited about that. Chase Elliott got a top 5.
So the course, is that where the F1, is that the same course out there? Where they do the F1 thing?
Probably. I'm not sure.
I've seen it. I've never saw a race, but it's kind of weird.
They've got a whole venue there with an amusement and park, and it's in Austin.
I was going to see if it's the same one because the F1, and I don't know what the name of that place is, but I can't imagine. I don't know where the other track would be in Austin. So they built this bypass. You can travel I think the speed limit's 85. Everybody goes 100, but it's kind of outer, and so it goes out around the city. And the race course is kind of well out of the city.
Yeah, it appears from the aerial footage that it's.
So, but you're just driving on this thing, and you feel like you're an F1 or NASCAR racer because you're doing 100 miles an hour. But then you see the course off to the right, and you're like, "Hey, this is cool."
Yeah. Yep. So that's one of those where they actually turn right.
Yeah.
For the part of the race. So.
You guys get lost. They got this arm, this whatever this muscle would be to pull the steering wheel, much smaller. They look like Hulk Hogan here and Pee Wee Herman over here.
Pee Wee Herman. So next week is Las Vegas. So we'll see how we go back on kind of a 1.5-mile track, see how that goes. But what do you notice about all the early races in the season, February, March? They're all in the South. They're all in warmer places. So you have Daytona, Atlanta, Texas, and then Las Vegas. So got to go where the weather's good this time of year.
Yeah, I wish I could go.
They're not going to Dover or Pocono or
is that North Dover?
In the
is
north.
That Delaware?
Yeah.
Do people watch racing in Delaware?
Yeah, it's a nationwide thing.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's it.
Yes,
That's the pod.
That is it. Have a great week.
Thanks for watching.